Halloween 2025 came with the United States in the grip of a month-long government shutdown, sparked by a fierce budget standoff between the Republican Congress and the Democratic minority. Former President Trump, from his Truth Social platform, demanded Republican senators end the filibuster, a Senate rule that requires 60 votes to advance most legislation, blaming the rule for the ongoing crisis. As the shutdown dragged on, the debate over the filibuster became a battle not just about the budget, but about the rules that shape American democracy. The filibuster is a long-standing tradition in the U.S. Senate, not a rule from the Constitution itself. It's been shaping how the Senate works for over 100 years. This tradition lets a small group of senators slow down or even stop a bill from passing. It does this by requiring 60 votes to end a debate, a process called cloture. With this rule, it's not enough to just have a simple majority to pass important laws. You need a lot of support from both political parties. This means that a minority group has a lot of power to hold up or delay what the majority wants to do, especially on tough issues. In 2025, the Republican Party held 53 seats. That's far from the 60 needed. This gave the Democrats a lot of power to demand changes to the funding bill that had to pass. In situations like this, talking things out and finding common ground becomes super important, because without compromise, it's almost impossible to pass big laws. The threat of a filibuster often stops bills before they even get to a vote. This forces both sides to negotiate, or more often, leads to a deadlock. Many proposals end up failing even before they're openly discussed, because neither side wants to risk losing. Supporters say the filibuster encourages compromise and stability. They believe this rule makes senators work together and stops really big policy changes every time power shifts. But critics argue the filibuster actually allows for obstruction and can paralyze the government, especially during a crisis like a shutdown. They think this rule is often misused to block progress and make political standoffs last longer. For Trump and his allies, the filibuster is a weapon the Democrats use to stop the will of the majority. They see it as a tool that gets in the way of the president's and the ruling party's plans, even when the people have voted them in. This frustration is why Trump called for the nuclear option to end the filibuster. This move would completely change how the Senate works and could speed up how laws get passed in the future. On October 30th, Trump used Truth Social, demanding Republican senators, "Go nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster." The nuclear option would let a simple majority change Senate rules, getting rid of the 60-vote rule for laws and letting Republicans pass their budget without any Democratic support. Trump framed this move as a fight for the future of the country, pushing Republicans to choose between old traditions and winning. The shutdown was all about budget disagreements, but the real fight was over policies, especially health care. The Democrats, using the filibuster, demanded that tax credits for the Affordable Care Act be extended. They argued that millions of people would lose their health coverage if these credits expired. Republicans, on the other hand, accused Democrats of holding government funding hostage to get their way on unrelated policies. The filibuster was key here. Without it, Republicans could have passed their budget and let the ACA credits expire. As the real-world effects of the shutdown grew, workers not getting paid, parks closing, and people facing financial hardship, pressure mounted on both sides. For Trump, this crisis showed that the filibuster was getting in the way of governing. But for Democrats, it was a tool to protect important issues they cared about. People who want to get rid of the filibuster, like Trump, say it's not fair because it gives too much power to a small group in the Senate. They think this rule often stops new laws from happening, even when most people voted for those changes. In their view, the filibuster slows things down and makes the government look like it can't get anything done. The filibuster lets a small group block what the bigger group wants to do, and causes endless arguments. This means many important laws don't get passed, even if most senators support them. They say getting rid of it would make things clearer. Voters could see which party is in charge and hold them accountable at the polls. That way, election results would be more clearly seen in the laws that get made. But, critics say, the filibuster makes everyone work together. It pushes senators from both sides to talk and find common ground. They believe the filibuster stops crazy changes in laws and helps keep our laws stable and our democracy strong. Also, the filibuster is seen as a way to protect the country from one party going too far, which could hurt smaller groups or ignore what the other side wants. Without it, people worry the Senate would become very divided, where working together and talking across party lines would happen less and less. Every new majority could quickly undo what the last one did, leading to confusing laws and policies that keep changing. Those who support the filibuster warn that today's majority could be tomorrow's minority. So, protecting the rights of smaller groups is really important to keep power balanced. Without the filibuster, the smaller group would be powerless to stop the other side from making extreme laws that could have big, lasting effects. This argument is about more than just rules. It's about how America is governed, how power is used, and who really gets heard. The nuclear option promises speed and getting things done, but it also risks chaos, instability, and losing the tradition of working together that has always been a key part of the U.S. Senate. The filibuster's power has slowly faded over the years, really changing how the Senate works. Back in 2013, the Democrats, led by Harry Reid, got rid of it for most presidential picks. That really shifted who had power in the Senate. The Republicans, who were really mad back then, used the same move in 2017 to approve Supreme Court judges, with just a simple majority. This made the change even stronger. These actions set a new rule. The Senate's rules could be changed by a simple majority, not the supermajority that used to be needed for big changes. Trump's supporters argue that the filibuster's special status is already gone. So, why not just finish the job for laws they think are super important? Those who disagree see a dangerous cycle. Each party, when they're in charge, breaks the old rules for a quick win, only to regret it later when they lose power. Getting rid of the legislative filibuster, they warn, would be the final step that can't be undone, changing how American laws are made forever. The Senate's slow change is now at a critical point, with an uncertain future hanging in the balance. Trump's demands split the Republican senators. The populists cheered, but the institutionalists pushed back. Senate Majority Leader John Thune publicly defended the filibuster, calling it a safeguard against really bad things. Behind closed doors, Vice President J.D. Vance admitted there weren't enough votes to use the nuclear option. Veteran senators urged caution, worried that losing Senate traditions would come back to haunt them later. The internal struggle within the Republican Party became as fierce as their battles with the Democrats. For some, the filibuster was an old-fashioned roadblock. For others, it was the last defense of the Senate's stability. The shutdown revealed not just a partisan divide, but a crisis of Republican identity. If the filibuster ends, Republicans could quickly end the shutdown and pass their budget with just 53 votes. But the long-term effects would be huge. The Senate would become a majority rules body, with little reason to compromise. Big laws could be passed, and then undone, every election cycle, making things unstable for businesses and families. The Senate's job of slowing things down would disappear, replaced by quick partisan changes. Minority senators would lose all their power, making things even more divided and hurting teamwork. The Senate would become a lot like the House of Representatives, but with even bigger consequences. Ending the filibuster wouldn't just solve the shutdown, it would completely change how America is governed. The 2025 shutdown and Trump's call to end the filibuster became a big question about how America should be run. The majority saw the filibuster as an old roadblock to getting things done. Others saw it as a really important check on too much power. This argument was about more than just money or health care. It was about the rules that shape our country's future. A Senate without the filibuster could act fast, but it might also lead to a lot of chaos and instability. A Senate with the filibuster might be stable, but it could also get stuck during a crisis. The shutdown made Americans face a big choice. Do we want quick action, or do we want careful thought and compromise? As the country watched, the future of the Senate's rules became a test for democracy itself.